Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Connor Spencer, and today we're going to be covering the price of justice, paying the right price for legal expertise. Like many things in life, also we all want the best price, we all want the best value, and legal is not exempt from this. Also, you could buy a pair of jeans from Kmart, which might be cheaper, but only last you 2 years. A pair of Levi's might make you last 10. A friend of mine had a car incident, and someone went to the side of his vehicle. Now he chose, and you may choose to insure your car. You obviously pay a small amount forward to guard against the huge amount it could cost you to fix any damage, and also get that car hire as well. Legal advice essentially works in the same way. It's proactive, but it has to work for you. On today's agenda, we'll cover, of course, a bit about LawPath, who we are, how we can directly assist. I'll introduce Damon, who will be obviously discussing today's topic. He'll be covering insider knowledge, transparency in billing, finding the right fit, and securing the best value. Finally, we'll conclude with a Q&A session. So you'll be able to submit your questions in the Q&A chat box. It is a separate button from the general chat. You'll see there's two there. So any sort of general inquiries, please put them in that one. Anything specific to the topic, add in the Q&A. For those of you who are new to LawPath, we're an Australian-based online digital legal platform. We've been operating for 10 years and helped over 500,000 small and medium businesses in different capacities within that time frame. We're tailor-made for startups for their registrations, their legal documentation, and uncapped legal and accounting advice. For the individual business owner, we've saved thousands of dollars in legal and accounting fees, but within the last decade across Australia, we've managed to save small businesses over $100 million. If you do also have any questions about LawPath and how we would fit into your business tool belt, please type yes in the general chat box. Similarly, if you have any questions about seeing the platform or even getting a demo of the platform, stick a yes in there. Someone can reach out from our customer service team and give you a rundown of how convenient and easy it is to use. But if you don't want to hear it just from us, what I would recommend is clicking our testimonials link in the chat box. We have some amazing video reviews from a few of our existing clients. So today's webinar, of course, is joined by Damon Murdoch. He is LawPath's principal lawyer. If anyone wants to view our Meet Our Lawyers page on our website and see the lawyers who deal with our legal advice plan clients, you'll see, for example, Damon has a 5 out of 5 star rating out of over 300 reviews. There's also a link in that chat bot as well where you can meet the lawyers. So if you want to click that, you can see them and their relevant expertise. But that's enough from me. We'll get stuck right into it. I'll hand things over to Damon.
Great, thank you very much. We have a bit of an intimate group today. So if you have any questions, concerns, anything like that, whether it's what we're talking about today or anything else, feel free to drop it into the Q&A. I always find the Q&A is the most valuable time that we have, essentially, to answer all your questions or any kind of needs that you might have. Now, the first one we're going to talk about is figuring out when you might need a lawyer, why you might need a lawyer, what steps do you normally go about hiring a lawyer? A lot of people might have never talked to a lawyer before. They might be possibly intimidated by seeing them. They probably have heard that they charge a lot of money and they might charge for emails and phone calls, and therefore we're going to lay out a little bit of strategy here about how you find a lawyer, how you talk to a lawyer, how do you identify what issues you might have and who you should talk to, and then a little bit about the actual engagements, the pros and cons of the different ways lawyers charge, and then how we can give you access to lawyers as well. So the first one is that if you're going to hire a lawyer, most lawyers, not all lawyers, so most lawyers charge at an hourly rate. And they charge at an hourly rate based on what's called units. And 1 unit is 6 minutes. And so in an hour, a lawyer has 10 units. That means that a traditional law firm, if you were to approach them, they will charge you in 6-minute intervals. So if you were to ask them to review a set of documents that you give them, they might charge you minutes to review that. So for instance, if a lawyer was to work on a certain task for 8 minutes, rather than charging you 6 minutes, they actually charge you 12 minutes. They round it up. And that's because the way that the nature that law works is that lawyers are generally working on a task by task basis. And they have to do file notes, they have to save their documents, record their documents, and scour through documents. And therefore, by having to stop one piece of work and jump into another one, like responding to an urgent email or something, they generally become less efficient and less productive. And therefore, there needs to be a means to charge that on to the clients. And that's why traditionally lawyers charge in these 6-minute units. Now, the best way to go about briefing a lawyer is to identify what your issue is. And Google is amazing these days, and a lot of information is available to you. And so, what you can always do is first turn to the information that's available to you. If someone breaches a clause in your agreement, you can type in breach of law clause and see if there's any articles from law firm websites that talk about it. If you received a defective good, you can Google defective goods and you'll see that the Australian consumer law comes up. So the first thing is trying to educate yourself a little bit on what your issue is, ideally. And that's going to help you find the right lawyer. Certain lawyers don't touch certain areas of law. Certain lawyers are fairly generalist. And then other ones are very, very specialized. So you want to kind of figure out, well, what is the area of law? What is it that you're facing? And then you normally want to get your documents together in an organized manner. If it's that you just want some quick advice with a quick answer, then you want to organize your documents in a way that's going to be easy for someone to review and give you that advice as quick as possible, because most lawyers are charging on time. So if, for instance, you use Outlook and you want them to review a bunch of email correspondences between you and someone else and give some advice on that, if you just add or drop in 17 emails into another email, that means that lawyer has to open up every email. They probably have to print each one. They then have to PDF them all, and then they have to collate them all and then look at them in totality as one. And so the first thing, if you're going to brief a lawyer, you want to take their time, or you want to make it so that their time is less wasted. And the best way to do it is do it in a chronological order. On this day, I signed this contract. Here's contract in folder 1. On this day, this happened. I issued this invoice. They paid that invoice. This is in folder 2. And you kind of go along in a chronological order telling your story. By doing that, you'll probably save you a significant amount of money, because then it's not the lawyer having to prepare all of that. So that's just some tips on how to actually start preparing your case to approach a lawyer and getting an idea of the area of law so you know which lawyer to approach. Now, when you look at choosing the right lawyer, you want to look at their qualifications. So there's a lot of lawyers that might be qualified from a different country, for instance, and might have only practiced here for a year. Or there might be some lawyers that have only been practicing for 2 or 3 years. And the question is, well, based on how much you're willing to spend and what kind of legal advice you're looking for will depend on the right lawyer you're looking for. If you're talking about Australian consumer law and you note that your lawyer has a New York admission and has practiced as a lawyer in New York for the last 10 years, but has only been admitted here for 6 months, they might not be up to date on all the most recent law. So for them to give you quick advice at the most cost-effective manner, they would actually have to probably research it and give you a letter advice. And therefore, it's going to cost you more if you're getting someone that doesn't have a lot of experience in Australia. Or potentially, if you're hiring someone to give quick advice, generally speaking, a lawyer with a lot of experience would have run across similar instances, similar facts, similar areas of law, so would probably know most of it offhand. Or if it's complex litigation, for instance, then most of the senior lawyers who do litigation will probably know the answer right away. To give you an analogy, I'm panel lawyer for the Master Builders of Victoria, Master Builders Association of Victoria. And it's not uncommon that clients will come to me and say, look, I hired my local solicitor to help me draft up a claim for this, but they've just charged me for a letter of advice. They've had to hire a barrister as well, and I've spent about $15,000 for this so far. And I said, well, I do this every day and we charge two. So it's, you can save a lot of money by finding a lawyer that actually specializes in that area, or at the very least has practiced in that area for quite a while. Now, the downfall is that if you're hiring a partner or a senior lawyer versus someone that's more 3 to 5 year experience, you'll probably be paying higher hourly rates as well. So the question then becomes, well, do I need someone that's really specialized? Do I need someone that's really experienced? Or can I go to a fairly junior lawyer to do this for me? And it really does depend on how complex it is. And it also depends on how much money is in dispute generally. So, for instance, if you're going to go to the local court fighting over $20,000, you don't want to be hiring a top tier law firm, and you don't want to be hiring a senior partner at a law firm, whether it's a boutique firm or otherwise, because their legal fees are going to be so high that you're never actually going to end up in a good outcome, because in the local court in New South Wales, for instance, in most jurisdictions, um, if your claim is less than 20,000 or possibly even less than 40,000, you normally fall into the small claims division, which means you can't recover all your legal costs. And oftentimes you can either not recover any legal costs, or you can only recover up to 25% of the actual legal costs charged to you. So if it's a small claim, you normally don't need to get really experienced lawyer, especially if it's fairly straightforward. I sold this good to this person, they didn't pay me. That's a clear debt recovery matter, and you probably don't need really experienced lawyers to do it. But if you're fighting over a very sophisticated, complex case with complex facts, talking about a joint venture that you had, or a business partnership deal that's gone wrong, or certain areas of law like Corporations Act, if you're talking about breach of director duties and things like that, the jurisdiction for that is normally the Supreme Court. And generally, most of the time, you need a senior lawyer who has experience in the Supreme Court in the areas of law to be able to run those. Otherwise, what you'll be doing is you'll be hiring a lawyer that doesn't have experience in doing it. They will then be getting their junior lawyers to draft a letter of advice for you, um, so that they kind of know how to do it. They would then be hiring a barrister to give further advice. And so you're going to be charged 3 times for something that a lawyer who has experience in it would probably know right away and be able to do it for 1/3 the price. So looking at the area of law, the specialization, the size of the claim, the complexity of the claim, these are all elements that you normally would look at in determining which lawyer would be right for you. You also want to make sure that the lawyer is actually admitted as a lawyer, and you want to make sure that they are insured. So there are some people on different online platforms that are offering legal services, but it might be the case that they might be an in-house counsel somewhere, but they don't actually have their own law firm, and therefore they're probably not insured. Or it might be that they're from overseas and they're able to draft you the contract, but they might not be an Australian lawyer. So it's generally a good idea to look at the law society in your applicable state, and look, and most law societies will have a register of solicitors, and you can look to see when they were in court or when they became admitted as a lawyer, or whether they are admitted as a lawyer, and what law firm they work for as well. So junior lawyer, 1 to 2 years experience, a lawyer or possibly a junior associate's normally 3 to 4, and then an associate or senior associate's normally about 5 to 6 years, and then you start getting up to a partner, which is generally more than 6 years experience. And most lawyers that are at around the 3 to 4 year mark can run most cases, if they're fairly small and not that complex. Now, we talked about the complexity of the case and the experience, but something else is that we also get clerks and paralegals and other people to work on files. So if you look at a smaller law firm, they might be working on a $1 million case. And for that small law firm, that $1 million case might be one of the bigger cases that law firm's doing, and therefore they will probably put a lot of effort into winning. They will get their other lawyers and everybody to drop most things to put all their time into getting the research done, the applicable law done, finding a very good barrister that can run this one, and giving it all. Whereas for a top tier firm, $1 million case might not be that significant to them. So they might be putting it on to more junior lawyers to work on the file. Obviously, it will always be supervised by the partner, but those are some of the things to consider as well. It's not uncommon where one law firm might charge $200,000 in a large legal matter, but a top tier firm might charge 800,000. And there's a huge significant difference. And the reason is about the resources that are put into those cases. Whereas a top tier might have a partner, a senior associate, and junior lawyer working on it. A boutique law firm might just have the partner and a junior lawyer working on it. So you might have 4 lawyers versus 2 lawyers. So that's how the costs can differentiate between the 2 firms so significantly. Also, some firms charge for printing, postage, ASIC searches, things like that. You might need expert reports if you're in the building industry, or if you're in a car accident, medical reports, things like that. So there's different things that can affect fees. Now, one of the things that most people say is, well, why do lawyers charge so much, and why do their fees always vary? And it's similar to building a home in many respects, where if you build a home, you have different stages to the build. You have your base stage, laying your concrete, and then your frame, and then your windows and doors go in, and then the internals start getting done. So it's a step-by-step process. And with law, for court cases anyway, we also have a step-by-step process. But just like construction, you have variations. The owner might ask for a change, or the architect might ask for a change, or the engineer might need a change, or the relevant building surveyor might need a change. And with law, it's the same. It's the other side has brought a different application, or you need to bring an application because they're not giving you the documents you want, or you might have to issue a subpoena, or there might be new witnesses or different witnesses. So what might initially be expected as being very straightforward, all of a sudden starts becoming more complex and more issues. And so for lawyers, it's very difficult to predict what those could be. So a lot of times they will quote you based on the standard case. Some lawyers might say, and these are the other areas that might differentiate these costs. So if you go to a lawyer and you say, okay, well, thank you very much for your cost estimate, but what other factors could arise, and what are those costs that might increase these costs? Because if you're only providing me with an estimate, how do I know what the true cost is? Because at the end of the day, this is my budget and I can't go over it. And so if you're quoting me this much, I'm going to say, yes, I'm going to hire you to issue these proceedings. But if it's going to be double that price, then I probably won't go after those proceedings, because I don't have the funds to actually take it to a final hearing. So it's worthwhile sitting down with your lawyer and really understanding what the risks are, what the pros and cons are, what the costs are, what the variables could be, and how those costs could differentiate and vary, and what factors might result in that. And so that's why a lot of the times it's talking to a lawyer that you feel really comfortable with, one that you're able to create a rapport with, one that you trust, one that's been able to demonstrate possibly that they've done similar cases in the past or done similar work in the past. They're upfront about their costs, they explain them, and just being able to get on with them. because a lot of lawyers are quite reasonable, and a lot of lawyers will take on cases and possibly issue discounted fees in certain situations where they feel that although they've spent a lot of time on this, they don't feel that the client would have got a lot of value out of it. And so a lot of lawyers will actually adjust their invoices based on the value that they feel that they've actually delivered, as opposed to just their hourly rates. But then again, we also have what's called new age law. And new age law is getting into fixed fees, retainers, things like that. And we'll talk about those kind of lawyers in a moment. But before you engage a lawyer, you definitely need to get a scope of work, what's included, what's excluded, how far are they engaging, or how long are you engaging them for? So are you engaging them just to send a letter of demand, or are you engaging them to send the letter of demand, respond to the letter of demand, respond another letter, and then sue if you want, if you have to. So it's a question of how far does that engagement go, and what are the limitations of that lawyer's engagement. And so you again need to understand, you might get 2 or 3 quotes from 3 different lawyers, but it's the same thing as using the analogy of a home. There might be 3 quotes for kind of the same thing. They're all building a home. But if you look at the finishes and the specifications and what's the difference between those quotes, that's when you're going to realize why one quote's more than another. And that's what will happen, is a lot of time people will get 3 quotes from builders and they'll go for the middle price because they feel, well, that one's too cheap and that one's too expensive. This one seems to be right in the middle. But if you look at lawyers, it's more about not necessarily the finishes. It's more about what's actually included. How did one lawyer quote 10,000, the other one quote 5? What is the difference? And if you can't identify those differences, it's asking the lawyer details, and being honest with them. Say, look, you gave me a $5,000 quote. I've got another $10,000 quote. I don't understand why you're half the price of somebody else. And maybe they can explain that to you, or going to the $10,000 lawyer and saying, look, someone else just gave me a $5,000 quote. Why are you double the price? And most lawyers will explain it. We have professional duties to be open, transparent. We have to act in the best interests of the clients. And we have a duty to disclose all our costs. And everybody has a right to challenge our costs. So if you at any time weren't happy with the bill that you received, or felt that it wasn't in line with the disclosure, you have a right to, 1, negotiate with the lawyer, or 2, you can you can file a complaint with the Legal Services Commissioner and have your costs reviewed, or you can do what's called a cost assessment, where you get someone to actually assess those costs. So those are a couple things. Another thing is, a lot of lawyers might tell you what the costs are. They might not tell you what the process is, and they might not tell you how long it's going to take. So it's really important to know what the process is and how long that's going to take. So for instance, in most courts, smaller courts, you can normally get to a judgment in about 9 months, generally speaking. But if you're in VCAT, Small Claims Court in Victoria, it might take a lot longer because they're still backlogged from COVID. So knowing how long it's going to take might change your decision. So it could be that someone offers you you issue a letter of demand for $20,000 and they offer to pay you 15. Your lawyer might say, well, that's not a very good deal. You have a very clear case. Do you want me to sue them? You say yes. Well, that means that now you're turning down the offer of 15, and now you're suing them, but now you got to go through the whole court process, and you might not actually get paid from a judgment for 10 to 12 months. But if you had known that you could have taken 15,000, got paid now, you might not have decided to go down the litigation avenue. So it's important to know how long it will take as well, and what the process is that's involved. Now, we have different kinds of lawyers. They're all the same lawyer, they just offering different packages. So there's fixed fee lawyers. So rather than doing billable hours where they're charging per phone call, per minute, per email receipted and sent, and drafting letters and so on, they just charge you a fixed fee amount. They just say, look, we've done this enough to understand how much it's going to cost. We know what the range is going to be. It's going to be $1,000 to $2,000. So we will fix it at 1,500, so that you are given some kind of certainty regarding the price. So that's a fixed fee lawyer, and that means that whatever is included in the scope is fixed fee. But again, if you're going to hire a fixed fee lawyer, the scope is more, it's stricter. It's saying, we are going to take your instructions, we're going to review all your documents, we're going to draft up that letter of demand for you, and we're going to send it. And that's it. There's nothing else included. When we get a response, we'll review the response. We'll then provide you with another quote to negotiate that up to 3 hours, for instance. So it's a very step-by-step, not that fluid process, but it's a step-by-step process on a fixed fee basis. Whereas a billable hour one will just say, this is what the range is, this is the estimated cost, and they just continue on going. And so that's the difference between the fixed fee and the billable hours. So the fixed fee, you know exactly what you're going to get. The scope's very clear. The pricing's very clear. Billable hours, the scope's not necessarily that clear. It's, we're going to act for you, and this is what our estimated costs are. And you might not know exactly what the costs are going to be because they've given you a range, for instance. There's also retainer models where lawyers can say, well, we'll give you a dedicated lawyer for this many hours a week ongoing on a monthly basis, and you just give them whatever you need done. And so there's all these different legal models that are now coming out and becoming a lot more popular than the traditional lawyer, that how it used to be. Now, for professional fees, there's I think we've already mentioned it, that you're going to be charged hourly rates for lawyers, senior lawyers, junior lawyers, clerks working on it. You're going to be charged filing fees, all the outgoing expenses that those lawyers are incurring. Some of them charge for paper and printing, some of them don't. Some of them charge for faxes, but they're not very common anymore. And then almost always, wherever you get a quote, there's always GST on top of that. Now, New Age Law is like what LawPath offers. It's online marketplaces. They offer all fixed fee quotes. They're fairly quick to get a lawyer. Lawyers don't have to spend as much time researching into the area because they're just doing that specific task. And most of the lawyers that are taking on that fixed fee matter is normally doing something that they've done before or familiar with. So they don't have to worry about these variables because they know what variables exist and they're comfortable to make that fixed fee offering. But once you end up going into court and things like that, it's generally unlikely that you'll find a fixed fee lawyer because it's too high risk for that law firm to take on a matter on a fixed fee basis. Now, the way that online platforms works, like LawPath, essentially there's 3 ways for someone to hire a lawyer through a LawPath platform. One is you don't need to be a subscriber. You have a legal issue. You go to the LawPath marketplace. You submit a brief, like we talked about at the beginning. You outline the facts. You outline the areas of law. You specify the kind of lawyer you're looking for. And then you request LawPath to find a lawyer for you. LawPath will then take that brief, send it off to lawyers to look at, and they will come back with a quote specifying the scope of works, or they'll call you, introduce themselves, explain what's going to be included, range of costs, and they will submit a quote for you, and then you can accept that quote via the LawPath platform. The other way to do it is you could be on what's called the legal advice plan. So LawPath has a legal advice plan where you can talk to a lawyer for up to 30 minutes at any time, and you could get them to review certain documents, and you can say, look, I need a lawyer for this. That lawyer that you're talking to might be able to do it. You could then have 30 minutes to talk to them about it and scope out exactly what they're going to do, and then they can submit a quote through the platform. Or the other way is to if you're on the legal advice platform, you can just request a quote directly into the platform for a lawyer as well. So those are fairly quick and efficient ways to find a lawyer, get the right lawyer, and get a quote right away. The benefit is that a lot of law firms, they don't necessarily have the resources to deal with new inquiries, because a lot of times they're very busy with the work that they're doing. So it does take time to get finally engaged by a law firm if you are not already an existing client. So you want to look at the area of law that you're doing, prepare a brief, and find the right lawyer and the kind of lawyer that you want, depending on the kind of matter. So when you're going to launch and run your business, you know, a lot of people have difficulty finding lawyers or getting lawyers that know their business and understanding their business. And a lot of small firms don't use lawyers because they're afraid of the costs, and they're afraid that they might be charged billable hours, and they might not have the budget for a lawyer. But as Connor said at the very beginning, legal is really about a proactive approach. A lot of people think you hire a lawyer after the fact, but unfortunately, lawyers can try to put out the fires after the fact. But what they normally do is draft clear contract terms for you so you don't have fires in the future. And that's the benefit of having the proactive approach in hiring those lawyers. But for lawyers putting out the fires, that's basically where they make most of their money, because they're heading into court and it's basically an hourly rate. Whereas the lawyers that are doing the proactive work, which is drafting the contracts, giving the specific advice, answering the specific issues, those kind of lawyers are normally a fixed fee, very narrow approach in what they're actually engaged to do, and very transparent costs, because it's normally a fixed fee basis. It's where you didn't hire the lawyer at the beginning that normally results in these big disputes that cost a lot of money. So what I'll do is I'll pass it over to Connor, and then I'll jump into any questions that you might have. So drop in any questions. And in the meantime, Connor will explain to you the platform a little bit more and the engagement process of hiring lawyers.
Thank you, Damon. So can you go to the next slide? Cheers. So obviously we have our legal advice plan, and it essentially is all about connecting you to our expert lawyers. We have around 15 internal lawyers at LawPath, and we actually have Australia's largest network of lawyers, so we can pair you with whoever will be the right fit for your specific need or business. Seeking legal advice, as sort of touched on, at a minimum is about ensuring compliance, that obviously you're engaged in good business practice from a legal standpoint, and whether it's been made aware of sort of basic startup law or any industry-specific regulations, you need to be aware of. At a fundamental level, it's also needing to know what documents, policies, contracts, and agreements you may need to establish with business partners, with your clients, with suppliers, even for your website. So this would be actually one of the first questions I would ask our legal team, and they can direct you to what we have on the platform. From there, once you've found those documents, you can actually complete it using the contract management system within 5 to 15 minutes. And then you can actually also submit it for review with one of our legal team. You want to obviously make sure that you understand the document you're creating, and you also want to find out if there's any further recommendations to what you should be including in that document, whether specific to obviously what you want to do with it, who it's being shared with, or potentially the actual nature of your business. Even for a small business, I'd be looking to seek good guidance on HR, employment queries. I would not sleep on protecting your business with HR documents or workplace policies, even if you're a small team under 5. We can go to the next slide, Damon. Thank you. Cheers. So what does that actually mean? So you can actually consult on the same legal matter if needs be. Obviously, if you require an expert opinion and you feel like your business is worth it, you can consult with our senior multidisciplinary lawyers. Again, you can see those in the link I provided in the chat. And you have a limited number of times to speak to them, whether it's the same issue or a new issue. And the same with your contracts. There's no cap on your contract reviews. in your consultation submission, just highlight the key clauses or pages you wish to discuss. And feel free to ask a lawyer if they have any recommendations on the language you should be including in the document. This will include documents we have existing on the platform, but if it's within scope and you have your own external documents, we can also review those as well. So just go to the next slide. Thank you. So it's access same day booking with our lawyers. You can book in to speak with a lawyer on the same day before 10 a.m. That being said, if you arrive at the platform and it's 10:01 and you really need to speak to someone, you can speak to your account manager about getting booked in. You can speak to our dedicated legal services team. You can reach out to customer support, or obviously we have a live chat there as well, the lawyers. So many options to speak with us. If you need to get booked in, we can probably book you in. We have some extended hours now, so our lawyers can run consultations until 5 p.m. and it's not listed there, but our accountants are currently operating between 10:30 and 2 p.m. Go to the next one. Thank you. So it's easy to tell you what we don't cover than what we do. I mean, if you have a general business, commercial, legal inquiry, there's a strong chance we can cover it, whether it's through our subscription plan or through the added benefit on that subscription of discounted fixed price quotes for any additional legal work. Obviously, you can schedule a time with a lawyer that suits you, and we operate in multiple different time zones where you can select the time. And you can also see we've also got the law path guarantee. So you actually find this in our terms and conditions. It's clause 26. Where obviously if you're dissatisfied with the service or it wasn't as it was kind of said in the tin, we have a money back guarantee there. And also you can get quick expert answers to any of your legal questions. In terms of what we don't cover, it's personal, family, estate planning, criminal, litigation disputes, franchise, not-for-profit, although we do have some not-for-profit clients, strata, residential tax, although this is included in the accounting, a migration matter, or COVID vaccine law. Actually worth pointing out here as well, if you have multiple businesses, you can actually discuss the legal matters for all your businesses on a single subscription. You don't need to register multiple subscriptions. The only exception to this is with our add-ons, which include our asset compliance plan and our tax compliance plan. And if we just go to Legal Advice Simplified, so here's just a few other features in there, some of which we've obviously mentioned. Obviously, you see like IP protection is like a legal topic we cover. The e-sign feature there, so you can actually digitally sign all of our contracts and send those even to your own customers to sign from their own devices. We have the LawPath AI now. Well, no substitute for an actual, human and a lawyer itself. We've got some really good tools there to help DIY a lot of the contracts yourself. So it has an Ask Me feature, a Review Me feature, a draft, so it will actually draft additional clauses for you, and a Simplify and Translate feature as well. And there's a team collaboration as well. So if you have business partners or you have your HR or compliance rep pretty involved with a subscription as well, you can add them in. You can add up to 3 additional people to a single subscription. Okay, I think that wraps me up. We'll go to the Q&A now. So look, we've only got the one question, so a really short one for you there, Damon.
Yep, not a problem. One other thing is our YouTube channel has a lot of videos. We do a lot of webinars as well. So if you ever want to just educate yourself or have a quick question, you can have a look at the YouTube channel. Your question might be answered there. And if you're a LawPath subscriber, we also have a chat function where you can chat with a lawyer. So if you have just a quick question, you don't need to waste a 30-minute phone call, and you just want a quick answer, you can, in your subscriber, you can put into the chat a question, and a lawyer might be able to answer that quickly for you. Now, the quick question is, do you have the URL address for the Law Society? I don't, but if you type in Queensland Law Society, it'll come up. You type in New South Wales Law Society, it'll come up. It's the Victorian Legal Services Commissioner. So it's a little bit different. Western Australia is the Western Australia Law Society. So just type in your state and the specific law society. if you're in New South Wales, then you can just type in "find a lawyer," New South Wales, and the very first site that comes up will be the New South Wales Law Society lawyer registry right then and there. I think. Oh, so one person's asked in the chat, what does it mean by no win, no fee, and how does that work? So no win, no fee normally is only offered in very limited circumstances. But the way no win, no fee normally works is where you have a very good case and that lawyer is fairly confident that they're going to win your case, or at least money will flow from the defendant to you. They will act on a no win, no fee basis. And what that means is that you don't have to pay your lawyer anything in advance. That lawyer will run your case for you without payment. And then at the end, if they win their case, then they take their legal fees out of the amount that they've won and then pay you the remainder. And if they lose the case, you don't have to pay that lawyer anything. But the no win, no fee cost agreements are fairly complex. So there's certain clauses that you do need to be aware of. So for instance, on a no win, no fee file, if the lawyer has been engaged on a no win, no fee basis, and then you decide to change your mind and you don't want to go to a hearing anymore and you don't want to run your case anymore, then you have to pay the lawyer even though you haven't finally got a decision, because you're withdrawing from the case and that lawyer didn't agree to be engaged unless there was an opportunity for them to be able to recover their fees. Other instances where no win, no fee lawyers could be paid by you is if they recommend you to settle the case, for instance, and you don't accept their advice and say, no, I want to take this to trial. And that lawyer doesn't think you're going to be successful and you have a very good offer, then that lawyer could say, you either take that offer or we're going to walk away, and because we don't think you're going to win. And if we do walk away, then you're liable for our fees. Other things is whether it's just their legal costs or whether it's all legal costs. So is it just their professional fees on a no win, no fee, or does it also include all the court costs, court filing fees, expert fees, or is that law firm paying for everything or just their legal costs? Are they paying for barristers as well, or just their professional, their time essentially? So that's essentially what no win, no fee means. It's normally offered in limited circumstances, oftentimes in personal injury, because if someone's been injured in a workplace, they're going to get paid. It's just a question of how much. And sometimes in employment, if something's happened, they're going to get paid. It's just a question of how much. It used to be common in family, not so much. I think there might have been some changes in the applicable law about that as well. So that's it for now. Thank you very much for joining. Subscribe to any of our channels that are listed here, and I'll pass it back to Connor. And that ends our show. Thank you.
Thank you, Damon. Just a final thing, if you can go to the next slide, Damon, we do actually have a special offer for all of our attendees today. We're offering a 7-day legal advice plan for free. So obviously we've just discussed in some detail about fees and costs with legal. We're going to give it to you guys for free. You'll have full access to the platform, to our documentation. You can book consults straight away. And you can also get any contract reviews you might be looking for as well for any documents you're using the platform or anything you might have external. So you should get a message from us if you want to claim this offer. If you would like someone to reach out to you and you have any specific questions to the platform, please type yes in the chat now and someone can reach out to you. But that will wrap us up. I'll leave the chat open for a bit longer. Thanks for everyone for attending today, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks.